I just wanted to say good morning and welcome to this service of the Unitarian Congregation of Guelph. My name is Margie Johnson, and I'm happy to be your service leader today. And thank you to Berna for being our greeter this morning, and Carrie for being our Zoom moderator. And I believe Carrie will now be beginning the recording of this morning's service. A special welcome to Reverend Linda Thompson of the CUC, the Canadian Unitarian Council, who will be our speaker this morning. Our theme this month is vision, and today's service connects our vision as Unitarian Universalists. What does it mean to embrace our identities as UUs? And what does it mean to be a UU congregation that lives with integrity? The Unitarian Congregation of Guelph strives to be a diverse community of mixed ages, genders, sexual orientations, abilities, and race. And we welcome all who come in search of truth and meaning. This past week, this first week of spring, was absolutely beautiful, and it felt like such a gift to me. Hearing the birds sing, seeing flowers coming up, plants and insects coming to life under the warmth of the sun, it reminded me of how much the land has to offer us. We have so much for which to be grateful. And we need to remember to not only care for our beautiful planet, but to thank her for the gifts that she offers us. We have much to learn from the first peoples of these lands, many of whom still call this area home. Our local lands have been home to the Chinantan peoples, or Attawandaron, the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Métis. It is important that not only we acknowledge that we are on the treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation of the Anishinaabe peoples, but that we also acknowledge the challenging histories that we have had, and that we take steps to cultivate respect in our relationships with Indigenous peoples and the land. And now we'll be having a song, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. And as we switch over to the song, I also invite you, if somewhere at home you have a candle that you can use. Yeah.
Wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, ours is no carols and of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, whoever of leaving, ours is no carol.
These words are by Andrea Hawkins Camper, Chief Editor of Soulfire, an online Unitarian Universalist ministry. Blessed are we who gather with open hearts together in this online space today. Blessed are we, the chalice lighters of resistance, justice, love, and faith. Blessed are we, the heretics, the outcasts, the walkers of our own way. Blessed are we, the border crossers, the refugees, the immigrants, the poor, the wanderers who are not lost. Blessed are we, the transgressors, the trespassers, the passers-by, the cause takers, the defiant, the compliant. Blessed are we, the hand extenders, the sign makers, the protesters, the protectors. Blessed are we, the trans women, the trans men, the non-binary, the cisgender, the multigender, the no gender. Blessed are we, the friend, the stranger, the lonely, the hidden, the visible, the authentic. Blessed are we who rise in solidarity. Blessed are we who cannot. Blessed are we who do not. Blessed are we, for this is our beloved community, and this is who we are. As we prepare to light the chalice, I invite you to consider lighting a candle of your own in your home, or perhaps close your eyes and imagine that we are sitting together at the UCG, lighting our chalice there, or perhaps picture that you are sitting around a campfire. Wherever you are and whatever you are doing, this flame connects us to one another, connects us to all other Unitarian Universalist congregations. We'll be saying together our chalice lighting words, and I've put them in the chat. In this flame, we witness the power of transformation. Awed again by the wonder of life, we are grateful to be vital to this living universe and inspiring community. If someone asks you what it means to be a Unitarian Universalist, what would you say? It can be a challenging question to answer. Perhaps you would say something that included something about our 7 UU principles. We're now going to share a song that Sequoia and I co-created using the traditional song, the tune of the traditional song, Willem, He Had 7 Sons, and words from the Do a Dear 7 Principle song. And let me just say that we are sharing this knowing that you are a loving and forgiving audience. So as you listen, I invite you to think about the 7 principles and what they mean to you. It's a video that we're sharing. And the lyrics of our song are posted in the chat. So please just think about our 7 UU principles.
How old is Sequoia now?
Sequoia is 7. She will soon be 8. That was a bit of a process getting that together. So yes, I was really hoping she was going to sing. She has an absolutely beautiful singing voice, but that was me singing in a key that's a little bit high for me. But anyway, And she did actually try transposing it. She can switch keys, which impresses me to no end, but we didn't have enough time to figure that out in a new key. So there it is, but thank you. And thank you to Sequoia for playing the piano for that. So we now have a story for all ages, which will be shared by Rev. Linda Thompson. She has been a UU since 1983 and is currently the Congregational Life Lead for the Central Eastern region of the CUC. Welcome, Rev. Linda.
Thank you, everybody. It's good to see you. I have a picture to share with a question. What does that look like? I assume that people in their minds are thinking pirate, and it certainly looks like a pirate, a young pirate. This fellow's name is Nigel Longhands, and everybody thought he was a pirate because he was the son of a pirate and the grandson and the great-grandson of a pirate. Actually, though, Nigel had never, ever stolen anything. Oh, Bill is a pirate today. He had never attacked a ship, but his whole family was sure that he was going to turn up and grow up to be a great pirate. But that made Nigel pretty sad and pretty worried because he didn't want to spend his life robbing people. He knew he didn't want to be a pirate. He knew this because when he was very little, his cousin had once taken a toy of his, and he knew how sad it had made him, and he didn't want to make other people that sad. He had a very good nature, and he was really worried that one day his pirate self would come out and take over his sweet self. And every day he'd look in the mirror to check to see if he still had that sweet face and that lovely disposition, or maybe he would have turned into a mean and angry pirate. So in the morning, every morning he checked. As time went on, it became obvious to everyone that he wasn't going to grow up to be a pirate, but the family tradition was so strong and so wonderfully infamous that no one was bold enough to say it. Well, it's just that he's a good pirate, they would say to one another. He was still worried, and he still checked every morning. Though over time, he became more certain that he wasn't going to grow up to be a pirate. And over time, the people around him realized that he was not going to be a pirate. And then a wonderful thing happened. Instead of saying, when you become a pirate, they said, so what do you think you would like to do when you become an adult? What things are fun for you? What's interesting to you? Some of them were a little sad that he said he didn't want to be a pirate. Some were sad that the family tradition might end right there. But they decided that Nigel really did need their love and support, and so they stopped insisting that he lead the pirate life. And indeed, when Nigel was an old man, he thought about his life, and he was so glad that he had become a shopkeeper. And he was so glad that his children and his grandchildren had made their own decision, and that none of them had ever become pirates. He realized that neither himself nor anyone else ever was forced to be a pirate, whether from natural forces or from duty. He was grateful that he had made his own choices and that his family had helped him find his path in life.
And Rev. Linden will now take us through the next part of our service, which will include a time of reflection, a song, and her message for us this morning. Again, welcome to you, Rev. Linda.
Thank you, and thank you again. I encourage everyone to let their shoulders roll and get into a comfortable down position, to take a deep breath. Make sure you're comfortable. Let us accept joy and sorrow, great sadnesses and triumphs. Let us feel them for what they are, proof of our humanity. Let our hearts be open to pain. Let them be stretched by it, however painful, however difficult. For it is through pain and loss that we claim compassion. Let our hearts be open to joy. Let them stir at the news of goodness and of pleasure and accomplishment, for this is how we can claim gladness. Compassion and gladness can lead to resolve, to greater mindfulness, and to the valuing of community. For at times when we must face tragedy and triumph, we need one another's company just to be together. To look into one another's faces, even on a screen, takes away some of our loneliness and draws our hearts together in healing and hope. When we come together, the beliefs that sustain us separately can draw our hearts together. With hearts united in compassion and gladness, with hearts drawn together in healing and hope, we reaffirm our humanity. And together, we can then take up the work of living our lives with kindness, decency, humor, and resolve. Let us remember to live our lives day by day in a way that says to the world, I believe in goodness.
Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony.
Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me?
I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. With all of our voices and all of our visions, with all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony.
Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our voices,
and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Sisters, we can make such. Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony.
sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony. Sisters, we can make such sweet harmony.
Hey.
Woo! Air 5.
Lay it out.
I'm going to start this morning with a reading from a book by the late Catholic priest, educator, pastor, and justice seeker Henry Nouwen. In his book, The Name of Jesus, Reflections on Christian Leadership. In that book, he tells of some of the lessons he learned when he was pastor of the L'Arche community Daybreak, which was near Toronto. In the book, he talks about the transition from his life as an educator and scholar at Harvard to his role as a priest and pastor in a community that included people with significant developmental delays. And Nouwen said, "Let me tell you about another experience that came out of my move. It was the experience of shared ministry. I was educated in a seminary that made me believe that ministry was essentially an individual affair. I had to be well-trained and well-formed, and after 6 years of training and formation, I was considered well-equipped to preach, administer the sacraments, counsel, and run a parish. I was made to feel like a man sent on a long hike with a huge backpack containing all the things necessary to help people I would meet. Questions had answers, problems had solutions, and pains had their medicines. And over the years, I realized that things were not as simple as that. And he goes on to reflect on Mark in the Christian scriptures, chapter 6, verse 7, with this quote, and he called upon him the 12 and began to send them forth by 2 and 2. And he continues to write, we cannot bring good news on our own. We are called to proclaim the gospel together in community. I have found, he says, over and over again, how hard it is to be truly faithful to Jesus when I'm alone. I need my brothers and sisters to pray with me, to speak with me about the spiritual task at hand, and to challenge me to stay pure in mind, heart, and body. Now, you and I might not use some of the language and images that Nouwen uses, but I'm prepared to suggest that we too need one another, just as much as the disciples did, and just as much as Nouwen did, so that we are able through to our best selves to help one another, so that no one needs to carry that backpack all alone. More frequently than ever, I'm hearing congregations use the language of shared ministry. Even when congregations work with a full-time minister, there is a growing appreciation for the reality that our congregations are, at a fundamental level, all lay-led. Some happen to work with a professional minister to help them in that work. And we're beginning to wrestle with the real tension between individual and community. In short, none of us gets to do it alone. Enlightenment is not a solitary sport. We need one another. And if we didn't believe in our heart of hearts that that was true, we'd be using the devices we're on right now this morning to be watching cat videos or something else. A congregational website I came across recently says this about our motivations for attendance at congregations. And this is a UU website. People come to our churches to be lifted out of the ordinary, to be drawn up from the mundane, and to seek relief from the omnipresent materialism of our culture. People come into religious community to wrestle with life's ultimate questions, looking for a place to seek meaning about living and dying and all the spaces in between. People looking for a way to make a difference in the world, to live a life that matters. In our society of frequent relocations and diminished family support, people also come to our churches to find friends and community. They come for a sense of intimacy and a safe place in which they can be accepted. They come looking for a place to belong. Well, that may be why some people come to congregations, but personally, I showed up, and I'm guessing a lot of you did because you wanted and needed to sit on another committee. Am I right?
Yeah, why
Yes.
not?
Truthfully, though, if we do it right and if we get it right, our congregations can help us to do that important work, the work of supporting one another in our work of intimacy and ultimacy. We can do it for ourselves, and we can do it for one another. And congregations remind us that we really do need to do it together. But there's a problem. Too often our congregations fall short. They don't deliver what people are looking for. They try, we try, but sometimes we don't deliver the goods. And we find that a lot of people, after an initial burst of enthusiasm, fade away. Some time ago now, I took a course that helped me make the connection between theology and the way that congregations and denominations organize. I considered that in our congregations, there is no single theological outlook, leading me to conclude briefly that perhaps we're destined to be disorganized. But then I thought about our values, our belief in equity and justice, and our focus on the interdependence of all existence, and that most of us could, with translation, perhaps, see each of us as having, as Channing said, the seed of the divine in each of us, or at least the potential to be expressions of the divine. So theologically speaking, we believe that each of us has wisdom. Each of us has something to offer. Each of us has a fragment of the truth. Theologically speaking, we are not a very top-down group. And if our congregations are to serve as expressions of those beliefs, then the ways we organize and the programs we support will reflect our values. For us, if we are to have institutional integrity, we'll need to ensure there's a space for all members, new and long-term, to come together where they can make meaning of their lives and find deep and abiding connections. It means we won't presume what answers others will need, and it means that each of us must remain open to the possibility of change based on the wisdom and contributions of others. I've sometimes heard people say, I've been a Unitarian my whole life, but I didn't know it until 5 years ago. I'd say that while I understand the point of that statement, and others like it, I actually do disagree. I believe that to be a Unitarian is to belong to and to associate with the congregation. It's possible to hold Unitarian ideas or to be a Unitarian thinker without association with the congregation. But I believe that it is coming together in communities that reflect our collective values, in communities that help us explore our humanity, in communities that hold us responsible for doing good, deep work. I believe that it's there we become truly Unitarian Universalist. It's here and in other congregations like this one that each of us does the work of exploring meaning and of becoming Unitarian. James Luther Adams, a great Unitarian theologian of the last century, said people come to church for intimacy and ultimacy. He also said churches are the place where we practice being human. He said they come to have lives of meaning and to find others who can know them and who they can know, so that they can explore fully what it means to be alive. We live in an age where no one is legally required to attend any particular church or any church at all. And the choices we make about where we belong are, at a fundamental level, expressions of our theology. But to do that sort of work and to make the sort of connections I'm talking about is to risk something. It is to risk being open with others, to risk sharing our deepest self with one another, and it is to risk having someone say to us, I think we can do better. Being in deep community means we must be open to change. And this kind of openness is not easy. It will lead us to lands where we are strange to others and where others are strange to us. Congregations as gatherings of friendly people are, I believe, not enough. They ought to be places where we encounter strangers, where we're made at least some of the time to feel uncomfortable. If we are personally open to change and challenge, so too our congregations must be. Because unless our structures and institution reflect our values, the values of knowing that others have wisdom, unless they reflect those values, things will be askew. So there it is, a challenge. I don't mean to suggest that this challenge is only yours. It belongs to all of our congregations. As I see it, we all need to figure out ways to live our theology and values into being, to minister effectively to one another and to the world. It takes ongoing effort to do this work well. We need to enter into the kind of shared ministry that Nowan was talking about. To be authentically Unitarian Universalist, congregations need to develop and redevelop programs that help long-time and brand new members find communities of meaning. We need to make sure that our congregations can be open to new people, that members are willing to risk meaningful engagement, and that each of us, and that our congregations are open to the possibility of change. And I know that is not easy. I really do think with amusement of the ways in which I and my home congregation of Hamilton have resisted new ways of doing things. As was said, I have been a member in Hamilton since the early 80s. And when I first joined that congregation, it was completely lay-led. And then the leadership started talking about professional ministry. And I thought to myself, well, what on earth would we need one of those for? And here I am. It's not easy for us to do this work. We feel comfortable dealing with the familiar. It feels safe to have a great conversation with people who think the same way we do. But if we don't change, If we let the comfort of the familiar lull us into assuming all is well, then we may fail to be the communities our values and our theologies challenge us to be. Happily, I have some thoughts about how we can meet this challenge, and mine aren't the only useful ones, of course, but I think they're a useful starting point for conversations. What do you personally do when you find your choices out of alignment with your values or your hopes for yourself? I think many of us start this difficult work by taking an inventory. What is it we want from our lives and our relationships? Where do we fall short of our aspirations? And then if you're anything like me, you find one or two things you can do, find some starting points for moving into greater alignment. I won't ever get to the point where I can say, absolutely everything I do is perfect. Sometimes for me, that's a problem, and I get stuck because sometimes for me, perfection is the enemy of the good. It's easy for me to get stuck, and I struggle to appreciate the small steps. And I see congregations struggling with this sometimes too. But if authenticity and integrity are worthy goals, we'll accept our imperfections and find a place to start. If our values, reflected in our principles, include concepts such as compassion, community, encouragement, spiritual growth, and the inherent worth of every person, we've got a good starting place for our considerations. And how well are we then is the question. How well are we collectively embodying our values? Sometimes I've observed in myself and in the congregations I work with the real tension between individual needs and preferences and that of the collective. Your ideas for great Sunday services may differ from mine. I might have ideas on which social justice priorities make sense, and you may think that I'm completely wrong. The ways in which we, with our varied understandings and preferences, can bump into one another are almost limitless. But at our best, we rise above those personal preferences and we think about how the community can be its best self. When we do this, we remember to think about the collective welfare rather than our own preferences. It doesn't mean our personal preferences for music, for styles of worship, for theological language, for community projects go away, but it does mean that we ask ourselves what the group needs. I'm not talking about any one person being a pushover. That would not put us in greater alignment with our values. But I am thinking about how beautiful it is when congregational life is a dance of give and take. How lovely it is when someone can say, in this moment, I'm able and willing and glad to defer to someone else's preference. It's my gift to them. I'm happy that their immediate needs and preferences are being met. My being stretched is good for me, and it's something I can do to honor someone else's spiritual path. Those are lovely moments. I know you've asked yourself some questions about how you gather and organize. You are asking yourselves if you are as welcoming to others as you'd like to believe you are. You are asking yourself if the ways you meet and work reflect your values. Bravo. It seems like an obvious and useful area for reflection. It isn't always done though, and even if we start, we never actually finish it. I had a classmate in seminary who came from one of the many UU congregations in the Washington, D.C. area. He told us, completely unperturbed and straight-faced, of the meetings at his congregations, meetings characterized by yelling and fist-pounding and name-calling. We, his horrified classmates, asked him how this was okay and what they were doing about it. Oh, he said nothing. That's just the way it is in Washington. Well, it may be the way it is in Washington. It may be that that's typical in Washington and Washington area congregations. The congregational meetings might have reflected Washington culture, but it wasn't a reflection of the values UUs aspire to. He described a congregation that wasn't functioning with authenticity. Far from it. Most cases of congregational disconnect I encounter are not as extreme as that one. But if we do the work and we take an honest inventory, we'll understand that we do have work to do. And that's okay. It isn't always easy. In fact, it's downright difficult at times. But then again, I think we've all figured out that good work is often challenging. I love our congregations. I love our liberal communities of faith that help people find companions for their journey. I love groups of people that witness to one another's lives and do it with compassion, and people who are brave enough to call one another when help is needed to their higher selves. I love that our congregations and their members are not afraid to look at the world and to do the important work of justice making. I love that we can show the world through the choices we make about how we organize and assemble what we believe. I love that we do this even though we find it difficult. I feel fortunate. I feel so fortunate to have found this faith tradition, and I'm pretty passionate about passing it on in better shape than I found it for the next generation. I hope all of you know just how much this congregation can offer to the larger community and people you haven't met yet. Thankfully, not one of you has to carry the backpack of gear required for a vital ministry alone. Perhaps you can each carry a small pack. You can help one another. You can invite others to join you in the journey. I'm so glad to be with you and to know that you are doing this work. And I'm delighted to be able to be one of your companions along the road.
Thank you so much for sharing those words with us this morning. Those are really important questions you raise, helping us with our vision, helping us define who we are as Unitarian Universalists and what we can strive to be as a congregation. And I really like that you started with the importance of community and shared ministry. And I feel reassured that our congregation has many people who are carrying backpacks. So thank you to all the people in our congregation who do a lot of things to keep our community growing and moving forward. In this morning's discussion circles, we'll spend more time reflecting on some of these questions that Linda raised during her talk, including what does it mean for you personally to be you? And what do you think are the earmarks of an authentically you community? So I'm just going to give you a moment now to begin thinking about these questions that are important to consider not only this morning and in our discussion circles, but also moving forward. What does it mean for you personally to be you? And what do you think are the earmarks of an authentically you community? I don't expect you to have a fully formed essay answer at this point, but just it's a chance to start thinking about these questions. And as I mentioned, we will continue discussing them during our reflection circles this morning. I'll be closing with words once again by Andrea Hawkins Camper. May we see all as it is, and may it all be as we see it. May we be the ones to make it as it should be. For if not us, who? If not now, when? This is answering the cry of justice with the work of peace. This is redeeming the pain of history with the grace of wisdom. This is the work we are called to do, and this is the call we answer now. To be the barrier and the bridge, to be the living embodiment of our principles, to be about the work of building the beloved community, to be a people of intention and a people of conscience. Thank you again to Reverend Linda Thompson of the CUC for her many contributions to this morning's service. Thank you as well to Berna for being our greeter, to Sequoia for helping with the song, and to Carrie McDonald for being our Zoom moderator, working his magic with all the videos and links. Thank you, Carrie, and also for the many other things he does behind the scenes. We will now extinguish our chalice. We gathered to light this chalice. We part, the flame lit within us, an inspired community. We have a couple of announcements this morning. One is with regards to next week's service. Next week is an away service with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Savannah. And next week's service will be held at 11 a.m., so please make note of that. If you wish to attend this service, you need to send an email to Lisa Lindsay because they're requiring a list of people attending for their Zoom security. And Lisa's asking that we submit our names to her by Wednesday, March 31st. So if at all you think you might be attending that service, please just send your name to Lisa. I don't think they're taking attendance, so if you just send your name, then you're on the list and you're good to go to join next Sunday at 11. And I think Carrie also had an announcement about Sunday Service Committee.
Yeah, hi everybody. The Sunday Services Committee, we're going to be having a retreat in May, but part of the process of knowing what the agenda is going to be for May is that we're going to be putting out a Sunday Services Committee survey, and you lucky people can take the survey now. I'm going to put a link for it now, but we'll also send it for the announcements for this week. So I've thrown that in the chat. If you're interested in responding or jumping on that early, please feel free to. And yeah, that's all I had to say basically. But any questions, feel free to email me or any of the Sunday Service Committee members. And if you have any feedback on the forum, please let me know. Thank you.
Also, to let you know, I just put Lisa Lindsay's email in the chat as well, if you wanted to click on that to send an email to her. Are there any other announcements this morning?
Hey, it's Mel. I sure do have one. On April the 11th, Anne Bachma is joining us from the Hamilton congregation. She's the author of Year of Living Spiritually. Currently, she's booked to speak in the morning and then offer a workshop from 1 to 3 in the afternoon, which is based upon writing your own story with some excellent writing prompts to take you deeper into that work. I have 3 registrants so far. That will not be enough to run it. It's $25 and cost is a barrier, just reach out to me. But if you are interested, I will need to know by next Sunday so that I can let her know whether it's going to go forward or not. And I would encourage you to consider this. If we have enough people, the plan is actually to gather again to share our stories with one another. So the workshop of learning to write our story and the work that goes on in exploring our own story is tremendous. And then that opportunity to share. So if that is of interest to you, please let me know so that I can get a gauge on whether or not we have enough people to move forward, but it will be delightful. And it is a multi-gen offering also.
I will say I have never had the opportunity to take Anne's workshop, but anyone I know who does just absolutely raves about it. So it's an opportunity for sure.
Absolutely an opportunity, like a rare opportunity. We won't have this one come up again, so that's why I'm hoping to just make sure I know who's potentially interested, so that I can make sure that you receive this awesome opportunity.
Mel, could I just ask the date again for that?
April the 11th in the afternoon, and I popped it in. I'll just pop in the link to our website to the event so that you can read a bit more about it. Like I said, though, she makes it really accessible in that she invites you into writing prompts similar to the heart space type work that we do once a month, where it allows you to move into a space of automatic writing and be curious about what comes up without, simply noticing what comes up, I suppose.
Thank you.